one of the challenges we have all had to face over the last nearly year and a half is our lack of opportunity to interact personally. So I'm extremely grateful to you for giving us the time to meet today. COVID has been, I think, for every nation on earth, a huge challenge. And your role in Nigeria in chairing the Presidential Task Force, now the Presidential Steering Committee, has been a key part in Nigeria's strong response to the COVID pandemic. And we have been pleased to work with you and with NCDC in your response here in Nigeria. And my colleague Diego has been working very closely, and I could see faces recognizing him for his work with you in the last year and a half. Our main reason for coming today was to have the opportunity to talk to you and your colleagues about how you see things developing over the next 12 months. Like us, you must be watching the situation in India with real fear and worrying about the potential impact of that sort of spread in Nigeria, as we are worrying about it in the UK. And also, as we start to live with the new normal, it would be good to understand Nigeria's perspective on vaccination, on COVAX, and also on international travel, where I must say Nigeria put safeguards in place in September in a way which it took the UK several months to catch up on. So we learned some strong lessons from you. And the other thing I wanted to say was we were talking earlier about, although how the rollout of COVAX is slower than any of us would like, how impressive Nigeria's implementation of the vaccine regime has been. And I know there are other countries where they are struggling to use their allocation, and Nigeria's approach has seen good exploitation of the allocation that has been made so far. But clearly the challenge of long-term vaccination of a population of 200 million is going to need a lot of work. But Excellency, thank you for seeing us, and it would be good, first of all, to, as I say, hear your perspective on how things are developing.
To the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and for the initiative to have this interaction. These are very difficult times we are in. We have all been hit with a pandemic of almost unprecedented extent. Pandemic that has spread around the world with an astonishing speed and has turned out to be a threat to mankind, not just to nations and not just to individuals. It's a pandemic that requires concerted effort, concerted response of all people. We in Nigeria have been quite apprehensive because of our not so strong health systems, and also because of our large population density, and also other challenges that face us, and have faced some of these challenges with some trepidation. Fortunately, we do not have such bad reports, but not that we are free at all, because the threat of the third wave is causing some anxiety around the world. First, I wish to commiserate with the United Kingdom on all the losses they had, because we had quite a few losses, which we observed. And again, to commend your government for the achievements you have made so far in your vaccination and in protecting the people of the UK. So it's been down and then up to a very admirable level. We have learned a lot from what has happened in the UK. I will still intend to continue to learn. We want to welcome this collaboration and deepen it. but also tell you where we have challenges here. The measures for responding to the COVID-19 threat, as you know, are first the public health measures and non-pharmaceutical interventions, and now the newly deployed vaccines. In that respect, I believe it has been a very open secret that the distribution of vaccines has not been quite equitable. Some countries have not had access as they should have. We are lucky to have access first from the COVAX facility, where we are registered, and also from the African Vaccine Acquisition Task Team of the African Union, chaired by the President of South Africa. We have also had a few bilateral agreements, arrangements with India and others, but our situation with vaccines has not yet improved. So the only vaccines we have received so far have come from the Serum Institute of India. We have sadly not received any vaccines at all from Europe or from America. We have not enjoyed the benefit of being able to see the hand of our friends. And I hope that that will change by now in our time of need. So I believe that this will help us in that direction. We are very worried because the demographics between Nigeria and India are similar. We have the same fervor for religion, for elections, for politics, for gathering, for socializing. And because we study what happens internationally very closely, we see the pattern that unfolded in India, and we're anxious about what would happen if we are afflicted with that situation here. So we are still looking for great help and support from our friends and partners in addressing this problem. And as the President of Nigeria mentioned at the recent conference and summit in Paris, we call on countries that have large consignments of vaccines to kindly share with those who do not have. And finally, also to support in our own ambition to be a vaccine-producing country. We have the market for it. We have the population. The demand is here. We have the potentials in every way. And we also hope that you use your good office to support our bid to develop to have the technology transfer and the necessary support to also establish our vaccine production capacity. There are very many ways in which Nigeria and the United Kingdom have worked together historically and also culturally and economically, and I believe that COVID-19 produces another opportunity to continue to deepen that relationship and that cooperation among us. Thank you for your attention.
High Commissioner to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to rest on already established protocol. Thank you very much for this opportunity to provide an update as to where we are with the COVID-19 vaccination. And as you have specifically mentioned, Your Excellency, our relationship with the COVAX facility. As of yesterday, we had vaccinated up to 1,938,611 Nigerians with the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. This represents about 97% of those that were targeted, the first 2 million that were targeted. And I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the technical support provided by the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office through the LAFIA program. Officers of the LAFIA program, which is a flagship program of the UK government, involved with the COVID-19 vaccination technical working group. So as we took our decisions around the strategies to deploy vaccines in Nigeria, your officials have been part of this engagement, and I see that Diego Moroso is here with you. In Nigeria, we took a very strategic decision at the Presidential Steering Committee to make sure that we vaccinate 2 million Nigerians, so that at the end of our vaccination program, we will have 2 million fully vaccinated Nigerians, not 4 million partially vaccinated Nigerians, and we continue to see some of the challenges that many countries are facing as a result of the shortage in global supply of the vaccines. One of the challenges that we continue to face, of course, as clearly articulated by the Honorable Minister of Health, is the issue of vaccine supply. We're at the point where we are likely to finish vaccinating 2 million Nigerians with the 2 doses of the vaccines by the month of June. Between the month of June and when we expect to get the next vaccines from the COVAX or from the AVAT is end of July and August. So we have a very critical window where we would like our friends in Europe and America to really come to support us. The COVAX facility has been very, very helpful in terms of providing vaccines to developing countries. But as we discuss the availability of vaccines from more developed countries, this critical window is important because this is when we need it. The vaccines to developing countries need to come yesterday, must come today, but definitely should not exceed tomorrow, because a gift is most important when you need it. We can imagine that in the next couple of months that the global supply of vaccines will probably get better. And at that point, if we get gifts from our friends, then they are not as valued as when we actually need them. So, Your Excellency, I believe that I speak the mind of your friends, of all Nigerians, when we say that any efforts towards fast-tracking the availability of these donated vaccines to developing countries will be really, really timely. There are conversations as well around the waiver of patents for the local production of vaccines. Again, we understand that the WTO will probably not take a decision about this until the month of June when the board meets. It is very, very critical that as our friends, that the voice of the UK comes to bear to support the provision of waivers for countries such as Nigeria to actually produce the COVID-19 vaccines, including all of the infrastructural support that is required to fast-track our work. We, as a country, take very seriously the core principles of COVAX, and we want to use this opportunity again to congratulate the UK for its support of the COVAX facility, which has helped us in bridging the inequities that exist in terms of access to vaccines. We will continue to work with the LAFIA program, with the FCDO, to ensure that not only do we improve and increase the coverage of COVID-19 vaccines for all Nigerians, but also, due to our collaborations, ensure that all the routine programs that continue to protect the lives of the vulnerable women and children are sustained, because oftentimes in many developing countries, the challenges of COVID-19 distracts from some of the basic health services that must be given to the most vulnerable populations around nutrition, maternal and child care. But because of the collaboration that exists between us and the FCDO, those services continue to have our focus, and we thank you very much, Your Excellency, for all of that support. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
The COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 pandemic is obviously the most critical health challenge of our generation and this century. It has impacted lives. It has disrupted economies. It has exposed the weaknesses of even our governance structure. And it has really made very obvious the lack of inclusion in our wealth distributive systems. to the extent that the adverse effect of COVID-19 has been most noticeable on the weak, the vulnerable, and the underprivileged. So the world was taken by a storm in 2020. Nobody prepared for it. So it became obvious that even the established democracies and economies were grappling with the same problems that developing countries were grappling with. So at a certain moment, it was a situation of everybody onto himself, trying to find ways of mitigating the adverse effect of COVID-19. And different countries and different nations globally in placed processes and procedures of how to mitigate the adverse effect of COVID-19. But the good thing about COVID-19 is that it has no respect not only for developing countries and underdeveloping countries, but it has brought out the humanity in us, that we've come to realize that no one is safe until all are safe. So I think going forward, probably that should inform whatever decisions we take in dealing with this very critical stage of the administration of vaccines across the globe. If experience is anything to go by, what has happened in India can happen in any nation. India is reputed to have the biggest vaccine manufacturing plant. And the COVAX facility we got of 4 million came out of Serum Institute in India. But today, India is not in a position to even export 1 dose of vaccine because they dearly need it so that they can vaccinate a certain proportion of their population. Back here in Nigeria, we had to take a decision that we felt was obviously the best. Our first strategy was to have a 4-phase vaccination process put in place. All was based on our expectation that vaccines would keep flowing. And the regime was first vaccinate 4 million people with first dose. As vaccines come in, you roll it out for the second doses. Then it became quite obvious that that was all we were going to get for now. And we had to reverse the phased approach and now decided that only 2 million will be fully vaccinated. And that 2 million is 1% of our population, assuming we work with the figure of 200 million people. That figure is not in a position to take us near herd immunity. We need to vaccinate about 70% of our population before we begin to talk about having the benefit of getting to herd immunity. That being the case, the clear indication and signals is that Nigeria is still in the danger zone. The chances of mass community transmission is still there. Because by the time we complete this phase of vaccination, only 1% of the population would have been fully vaccinated. And this is where we need your support. Because our initial schedules was that we would try as much as possible to vaccinate through the support of the COVAX and the AVAT facility to vaccinate at least 40% in 2021 and 30% in 2022. What we are almost succeeding to do now is a far cry from that. I do not want us to get into a panic mood. if we begin to experience the third wave of infections in our country. I'm saying this to underpin the fact that this is the time we need our friends to come to our aid. I'm making sure that as we complete this first phase or revised first phase of our vaccination, that vaccines should be readily available for us through whatever process, either the COVAX or the AVAN, which the COVAX, I know that the United Kingdom has been a very major player in it, or through any form of bilaterals, that we can get vaccines as quickly as possible. I know there's a growing demand for vaccination. Every country is so much in a hurry to get its population vaccinated. But I think there should be some form of equity, because the level of traffic between Nigeria and the United Kingdom, I don't think even if you vaccinate 70% of your population, if Nigeria is not properly taken care of, from Nigeria you stand the risk of getting your populations reinfected, and vice versa. I believe you've seen on the pages of newspaper and you've heard on our news bulletins the modest attempt that we are putting in place to ensure that we deal with the variants of concern, particularly those coming out of India, Turkey, and Brazil, because of what we see and what the science and data reveals. We believe that we needed to in place a more mandatory protocol of at least mandatory quarantine of 7 days with 2 tests in between, to ensure that those variants do not become dominant in our country. Oxygen was a major factor that accounted for fatalities in India. And I know how fragile our oxygen distribution network is concerned. Fortunately, the President has approved, and I believe that you are coming to Council next week to seek for approval for the award of oxygen plants that the federal government is going to build in all the 36 states plus the Federal Capital Territory. This is all in order to ensure that our health infrastructure is strengthened. Peradventure, the third wave comes in a very virulent and deadly manner like it has impacted India. We are preparing for that. Not only that, we are also using the opportunity of COVID-19 to reconfigure our health infrastructure and make it better and make it more enduring and sustainable for posterity. I believe COVID-19 has come with a lot of negative effects, but in the same vein, it has provided an opportunity for us to remedy and regain lost grounds that we have not dealt with in the past. So I want to thank you for this opportunity of coming to share with us and to also have our perspective of what we are doing. We'll continue to collaborate with the UK, and we will continue to ensure that as much as possible that we try to appropriate from our long-standing relationship as two countries that have had a very long history of working together and sharing in the Commonwealth and in our past historical relationships. So I want to thank you, Your Excellency, and your team for coming, and look forward to greater interface, not only on this. There are so many things that I believe that we will continue to work with. And to thank you also for the work that I think it's, it used to be Defeat Pearl, but it has changed now. That is doing along with the Cabinet Affairs Office in terms of helping us to establish the delivery unit. The great job is being done, and it is helping the coordination and the tracking of government policies, programs, and projects. And I want to thank you for that intervention and several other interventions that the UK is doing in assisting the government of Nigeria to deliver on its mandate to the people and to bring a better quality of life, which our people rightly deserve, to them through all these engagements and support that we are getting. Thank you, and welcome. Motto for the celebration is 60 together.
Second.
Emphasizing the indivisibility and indissolubility. This is a token of our activity.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Go.
As we discussed, the situation in India is such that no government would have had a choice but to use the vaccine it was producing within its own country. But this does mean that COVAX is being slower in its implementation than any of us had wanted or planned for. The UK is hosting the G7 summit in July, and I know a key issue that the Prime Minister will be pressing is global vaccine availability. We're not yet at a stage where I can make promises about what this will mean in the short term, but we all know, I personally am acutely aware that no one is safe until everyone is safe. And this is an absolute priority for our Prime Minister to work with our friends and partners to make vaccines available as quickly as we can, because this is the fundamental way we all have of addressing the long-term prospects for the health, not just of individual nations, but of us all. Thank you.
How quickly will that be?
If I knew the answer to that, I'd be a much more powerful person than I am. But it is something where addressing not just the short term, but the long term is important. Part of our discussion today was how we can work together with Nigeria to see if there are local solutions available that will look not just at COVID vaccination, but at other vaccines and their availability here in Nigeria.
Okay, Madam, following the latest updated statistics from the pandemic, experts warn of supermutant virus as France and other countries are imposing quarantine on new cases arrival. What would you be advising Nigeria?
So what I can say is when I travel to the UK, I quarantine. When I travel from the UK to Nigeria, I quarantine. This is part of how we protect ourselves. And for anybody who is travelling, I would advise them to follow the local protocols in the country they're travelling to. I do that, our staff do that, and I think that's an important part of protecting any individual country. The other thing I want to mention is that part of our joint cooperation is work on identifying genetic changes here in Nigeria, where we work very closely with NCDC to support their technical expertise in this area.
All right, and the last question I want to ask the SGF, what more collaboration would you...
There are a lot of areas where we can further this collaboration. She's just spoken about the need for finding local solutions, which will include at least manufacturing a lot of work here. of not only the COVID vaccines, but all other vaccines. Because after COVID, there are still health needs that we should always be mindful of and try as much as possible to address those areas so that we do not return back to square one in those routine vaccination issues. They have, UK have been a very strong partner in the COVAX facility and also in working with our agencies here, the Ministry of Health and the Primary Healthcare Development Agency, in trying to ensure that at least our response to the COVID-19 and other health challenges in the nation are aggressively dealt with. So there are different areas in which we collaborate, in areas of risk communication, advocacy, and also training, which are part of the national response.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.